Cuban Five!
Llegaron acá a hacer contactos con los grupos cubanos. Two days ago, we celebrated the 30th anniversary of the death of my father, close to here at Sheridan Circle on Massachusetts Avenue. A young woman lost her life there that morning, a young 25-year-old North American woman, Ronnie Carpin Moffett. 30 years have gone by since that day, and we've uncovered a lot of information about how that assassination was put together by hit teams. One team sent under orders from Augusto Pinochet, then the dictator of Chile, to meet with another hit team from the Cuban nationalist movement. They had probably worked together on other hits before, how they came together and conspired to kill Orlando September 21st, 1976, here in my hometown. I was 17 years old at the time. Today, we know that the men who are in jail today, the Cuban Five, were undertaking the task that intelligence agencies of this country are really supposed to undertake: the discovering of information, the investigation of crimes of terror. Today, 30 years later, we know that a man like Luis Posada Carriles is implicated in the death of my father. We know that he was associated in the plan to kill Fidel Castro in Panama City with Guillermo Novo, a man that is known to have participated in my father's murder. People have asked me today, why are you here? And to me, it's very clear. The story of the Cuban Five is connected to a historical relationship throughout the Americas of people pursuing sovereignty, the right to live in peace, self-determination, justice, human justice, social justice, human rights. And that's why I'm here today. One more voice, one more story.
Going back to Fabio, my brother's story, it was September 4, 1997, when I received a phone call from Havana. I could recognize my father's voice was very different from his usual voice, and he had just told me that my brother had been killed by a bomb. A mercenary was being paid $5,000 at that time for every bomb he was putting in Cuba. The man paying him was Luis Posada Carriles. Fabio was sitting right next to the bomb. A piece of shrapnel cut his throat, and by the time he got to the hospital, there was not one drop of blood in his body left.
And so we're before two judges who have already written extensively that an injustice has occurred in this case. And we're hopeful for that reason that these two judges will rule in our favor. Lastly, I would like to say that in my experience in political cases such as this, the size of the support, the extent of the support, the breadth of the support is absolutely critical and essential to what happens in court. Lawyers are not listened to in a case of this nature unless there are people outside of court who will stand up and stand with the five. So it's very important that in this critical period of time, while their fate is now being considered, that we all stand together in large numbers, making our position clear, encouraging others to stand with them, and to finally reverse this injustice and send the five home to Cuba. Thank you.
The Cuban Five were not the first, nor will they be the last patriotic Cubans who've entered the dangerous territory of Miami to defend their country. They are, however, the first Cubans who the United States government obsessively persecuted since they were arrested 8 years ago. And it's because they thought with the collapse of the Soviet Union that Cuba could be and would be done away with. 40 years of blockade didn't do away with Cuba's revolution. An invasion and another massive invasion plan didn't do it. So terrorism, state-sponsored terrorism by the US government, has become the weapon of choice for the last 45 years. The Five accepted a dangerous mission. They had to mingle with the fascists. They had to talk like the fascists in order to become the most effective anti-terrorists that they were. They worked in low-paying jobs while they carried out their duty. They lived in Miami and Tampa, in the belly of the beast, looking, keeping vigilant, winning the confidence of those terrorists, and all the while disrupting their plots. They saved lives. And how dare this government keep them in prison 1 minute longer?
Now here were the Cuban Five. There was damage done to the Cuban people. Innocent people were dying. Cuba has the right to protect their national sovereignty in their country. So they did what America is doing not only inside but all over the world as I stand here right now. They were trying to protect their country. And then the audacity of the American government to go and lock them up when they're pointing out the terrorists. Now the people of America don't know this. They don't know it because this message has not been communicated to them. Leonard Weinglass, if you take what he said and you distill it in the simple manner, Gloria, saying, understanding the struggle of the Cuban Five, innocent men locked up in American prisons. How do we get into the high school with the story of the Cuban Five? How do we buy time on television on Sunday morning as the preachers do and tell the story of the Cuban Five or show a video? This way you get it into the American system, and the main media press has no alternative but to react. How do we get on the radio shows? As Conrad Alakan has done in major cities across America recently, talking to our community about the plight of the Cuban Five. It has to be that kind of campaign.